tonight we speak exclusively with a longtime member of one local church who was dragged out of service by deputies.
That happened in Scott County. Now, that encounter happening at Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church on Father's Day. 3 Insights Chris Fields shares her side of the story with you. Chris?
Well, that's right, Howard. On one hand, members say they were trying to do the right thing and speak out against the pastor after not abiding by church bylaws, but court records reveal a different story. Now, according to these documents, it turned out that a church deacon was assaulted months ago at the hands of some members, and as a result, they were asked not to return until things were resolved.
I was wrestled to the floor. One got my right arm, twisted it. I said, "Oh, you hurting me."
Let me help you. That's how longtime member Allie Thompson recounts what she calls a painful and chaotic Sunday morning. 3 on Your Side obtained exclusive video of the altercation at Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church. Thompson could be seen being dragged out of the mother's board section and out the door by 2 Scott County deputies. According to Scott County Sheriff Mike Lee, she and other members received court-ordered letters not to attend services any longer. However, Lee told us they violated the court's order and came to service anyway. Others learned Sunday they were stripped of their longtime positions.
I am the Sunday school teacher here. And Mr. Johnson came in this morning and said that his pastor had asked him to teach the Sunday school lesson, and he's taking it over. I was not informed.
Now, you may ask what led to the big blow-up. Well, Thompson claims there are several things, including speaking out against Pastor Charles Bell's leadership.
He called himself appointing a finance committee. The church did not put that in effect. We have bylaws and rules that we govern.
Thompson also claims other leaders of the church are not being included in church business.
Why he doesn't include my husband, who is the oldest man here in the church, who is the oldest deacon, I do not know. He makes decisions without his knowledge.
3 on Your Side did some digging and found several things filed in Scott County Chancery Court. Back in 2024, leaders of the church filed a restraining order and preliminary injunction against 7 members, including Thompson. It claimed that those members assaulted a deacon both physically and verbally on September 15th, 2024. He had to be hospitalized. It goes on to say that all those defendants verbally threatened and assaulted the pastor, First Lady, and other members of the church. Now, Thompson filed a statement to the church's lawyer saying she had no involvement in that altercation.
All the preachers that have been here and gone, if you get in touch with them, they would tell you that I have been a faithful warrior, nothing but welcoming, greeting guests that comes in.
3 on Your Side requested to speak with Reverend Bell Sunday about everything that has transpired, but was told he wasn't available.
So, Chris, tell us, what is next for these members?
Well, great question, Maggie. Their membership now lies in the hands of the congregation. And Thompson says the church will have a meeting later on this month to officially vote them out.
All right. Thank you so much, Chris.
All right, Chris.
All right. Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. All praises to the Most High, who was evidently not at the Mount Olive Baptist Church down there in Scott County, Mississippi. This is just an example of what I would call church foolishness, first of all. But of course, the most egregious part of this story is about the deputies. You saw them drag that elderly woman out of the church in handcuffs by her arms, in which nobody else was dragged out in that fashion. There had to be another way for them to handle that situation, as you saw her laying on the floor, writhing in pain and being drugged out, by these deputies. Now, first of all, I do have to fault, I guess, the pastor for calling outsiders into church business. Now, I've been in church all my life. My father's a pastor. I've been in, some ministries where I've seen these type of things take place, which is basically, from what I'm understanding, what she's saying, it's a power struggle. People have went to this church for years and years. As you heard one woman say, I am the oldest member. I am, I've been teaching this Sunday school class for years and years, and now they've appointed someone else to teach the class. Now, once again, the lady said they had bylaws and all of these things to be governed by. The other lady said that he appointed a finance committee, to oversee the church. And then, she complained about him not including her husband in the decision. So I don't see God in none of this, and that's what I see in a lot of churches. God becomes secondary, and people are pride themselves on the positions they hold, and the standards, or the long-standing tenure that they've been there, and people walk with their head high. Now, once again, I don't advocate what happened to that lady. I'm just talking to us as a people, and how we've let the church, the so-called church, turn into things like this. There's no mention of saving souls, of witnessing, of saving the lost, going out into the world and preaching the gospel to every creature. That's what Jesus did. I don't remember Jesus saying in any of the scriptures, we have to set up bylaws, we have to do this, we have to do this. Now, I don't know if that's a new pastor. A lot of time with these old churches, that what they bring a new pastor in who may try to do things different, and then the ones who have been there for years and done things a certain way, then of course their feathers get ruffled. They even mentioned that the people were banned or told not to come back to service because of some type of altercation they had with the deacon, in which they verbally and physically attacked. And I don't, once again, I don't see, these elderly people going in there throwing hands and fisticuffs and putting hands and feet on people. But when these things happen, as you see, things, turn ugly. Drastic times, I guess, sometimes call for drastic measures in their opinion. But, to see those deputies drag that elderly lady out of the church like that, I'm pretty sure that they had, fun doing that down there in Mississippi, and we've all know some of the stories I've covered out of Mississippi. They say, well, you have the South, then you have Mississippi. And so, once again, there's no black deputy in the picture. I wonder if there was a black deputy, would he have stepped in and told those people not to handle our elder in that fashion? But, this is something that, I've seen throughout my years in church, and, I don't know, what it is with, people that like you said, they disrespected the first lady, and, people with these titles, sometimes they, let those titles go to the head and the positions. If the pastor said that, hey, we're going to get a new Sunday school teacher, maybe, your time is up. Once again, I don't know the particular situation, but I do know that, them dragging that dragging that lady out, in that fashion was definitely, in my opinion, not representative of what law enforcement should be doing in that situation. There should have been a better way to handle that. But also, once again, don't call the police, especially, in the church house. We should be, believers should be, if you believe in the true and living God, the Most High, the all-knowing, the all-powerful, the ever-present God, you should definitely be able to work those situations out without calling people who have been known not to follow God's laws and, to hurt and, maim and treat people like this. You should be able to handle those situations without bringing those people within the spectrum of the situation. But y'all let me know what y'all think about this video in the comments. As always, you see my number, 919-587-7782. Thank y'all for watching, liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. And as always, unlike this church, peace and blessings. And as the scripture says, all things that are hidden shall be revealed, and those things done in secret shall be exposed on the mountaintop.
Let's go, Rich.
Let's go.
You watching Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth before fake news throw mud in it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing. Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. The propaganda grammar, don't believe none of it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing. Telehouse Publishing, breaking news coverage. Give you the truth before fake news throw mud in it. Before the jury decide and the judge discover it. You should tune in to Telehouse Publishing.
Negroes have listened to the trickery and the lies and the false promises of the white man now for too long.